Right, now you've had a lot of theory thrown at you so far, so I think it's time to get the paints out, or to be more precise, one colour out. Because what we're going to do here is a monochrome painting of a scene that I visited with my wife not so long ago, and this is the beautiful Lake Garda in northern Italy. And all that monochrome means is using just one colour. Now we were on a ferry when I took this photograph, and as you can see you've got a range of mountains here, which is the start of the Dolomites, several miles away. But as these mountains get closer and closer, you can see how the colour gets stronger and darker. But don't worry about getting all these greens and greys and blues mixed in, because we're only going to use one colour for this painting, and that's ultramarine blue. Now the great thing about a monochrome painting is that it helps you in watercolour to understand about creating depth in your picture. So these mountains will be a pale blue because they're several miles away, and the other mountains will become increasingly stronger in colour as they get closer to us. But let's have a look. Now I've drawn in the outline of the mountains, and as you can see it's just a series of about half a dozen big nondescript shapes, so you don't have to have any drawing ability to do this picture whatsoever. I've used a ruler to draw a straight line where the horizon and the end of the lake will come. You're allowed to use rulers in my class, so don't worry about that. And as you can see, I've not worried too much about exactly replicating the size and shape of each of these mountains. Now, as I just said, we're going to use ultramarine blue for the whole picture. Here's some fairly strong ultramarine blue, and here's a much more watery wash of the same colour, and that'll give us, by mixing these two strengths of colour together, it'll give us all the depth of colour that we'll need to adjust for the mountains and so on coming forward. Oh, incidentally, I'm using £140 Bockingford watercolour paper for this, which has a rough texture, so it'll give us quite a nice hit and miss effect when we come to do the lake, and I'll show you how that works a little later on. But right now we're going to start off by doing the sky, and I'm actually not going to put any paint on the sky just yet, because what I'm going to do is put clean water into the sky and show you how easy it is to create a very, very simple sky without any effort whatsoever. So I'm putting, now this, although I said clean water, it's actually tinted slightly with blue, so you can see it a little bit easier, but I can assure you that when that dries, if I left it and didn't do anything to it, it would almost be invisible. Now you can see I'm deliberately missing out some parts of the sky with the water, and you can also see that I'm bringing this right down over the mountains, because this helps to unify the whole picture, and you'll see why that's important a little later on as we progress. Now you can see I've also dragged this straight down into the lake area, because any colour in the lake is always going to be reflected by the colour of the sky. Right, I'm going to take some of the strong colour now, one brushful out of this well, and I'm just going to run it across the sky. Now because there's water already in the sky area, it automatically starts to dilute where I'm putting the paint, so you can see I don't even have to think about trying to create that lighter horizon for the sky. I'll just leave that like that. And of course, because I've got my drawing board on a slight angle, as I showed you earlier, it means that paint has a tendency to run down the page in a reasonably controlled way. So remember, all that I've done is wet the paper to start with all over with clean water, leaving some white areas here in a pretty random way. The next thing I've done is put a strong colour of blue at the top and work that down, and because the paper is already wet, the water that's in the paper has diluted the blue in the brush and lightened it off nicely for me towards the horizon. I haven't had to do anything at all to achieve that. Right, I'm just going to give this a blast with the hairdryer now so that we can speed the process up a little bit. Now, as you have probably heard me say already, do you see the way by putting strong blue at the top here in the sky, when it dries it goes much lighter? And you'll hear me say that many times again throughout the course, that make your paint stronger than you think, because it will always dry a lot lighter, and if it looks right when it goes on, then it's probably going to be too light when it dries. Now what I'm going to do is to paint this mountain here a very, very pale blue, because that's several miles away. If you look at the photograph, you can see that it's just a single blue tint, and in fact mountains and other items that are a long distance away do tend to get bluer and paler as they get further away. So this time I'm going to go into this well, which has got a very, very pale blue wash, but what it does, as you can see, is to give us a nice distant pale blue. Remember, this is just the one brush full of paint to put on to start here, and it's still got plenty in it. If you do feel uncomfortable about painting over the lines, then just a little bit of paper towel folded over will take off any unwanted areas. The next furthest away mountain is this one here, so we're going to do this a little bit stronger than this one here, so that by making it a little bit stronger we're able to distinguish the two, so that that goes behind this, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So this time we're going to go into the pale blue, but we're going to add a little bit of the stronger blue to the pale blue wash, just to make it a little bit stronger. I want to make sure that I've got a clear definition between that line there and this part of the mountain here. So by doing that, yeah, that's fine. Now I'm also lightly, I don't know if you can see this, I'm scraping with the side of the brush on the what's called the belly of the brush here, and that's leaving a nice hit and miss effect here and there. Now then, you can see by using this extra strength, extra tonal strength, this mountain has pushed this lighter mountain further back into the distance.